Hello and welcome. $1 billion US. That's what the United Nations says is required to provide humanitarian services for the over 8 million persons displaced in the country's northeast region for the year 2021. Abducted students of Ogun State University regained their freedom hours after students' bodies gave 4-day ultimatum for their release. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission gives operators in the country's financial sector up to June 1st to declare their assets. And countries around Europe seek further clarification on the safety of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine amid criticism over their decision to suspend giving the jab. Plus, we'll have business, sports, and later on international news from our London studios.
On business news tonight, Central Bank and Nigerian Communications Commission introduced new charges for USSD transactions in the country.
On sports news tonight, AC Milan forward Zlatan Ibrahimovic returns to Sweden national team 5 years after retiring from international football.
And from Abuja, Managing Director of Nigeria Civil Aviation Authorities says suspension of Azman Air is to allow for a thorough investigation into recent incidents with the airline bordering on public safety.
$8.7 million people in the Northeast will be needing humanitarian assistance in 2021, and that's according to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Out of that number, the UN body says it'll target 6.4 million people for humanitarian assistance in the year, which is expected to cost $1 billion. At the launch of the 2021 Humanitarian Response Plan, held both virtually at the UN House in Abuja, participants, including the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, expressed concern that the COVID-19 pandemic is also posing threats to IDPs in the country. Our correspondent, Empress Simon, reports.
For nearly 13 years, Nigeria has witnessed incessant attacks by Boko Haram insurgents, mainly in the northeast. Millions of people have been rendered homeless and are now taking shelter in internally displaced persons camps, a development that has led to major humanitarian crisis for the country.
It will be the national NGOs who are there.
To address this challenge, the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs has designed a response plan for the year 2021 to support the Nigerian government. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Sadiya Farouk, joins the meeting virtually and is positive about the impact of the plan, just as the UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator expressed his concern over the increasing security challenges in the country.
It is important to underline that the requirements for this 2021 Humanitarian Response Plan reflects a growing need. At the same time, as we know that very likely the available resources will not be commensurate with those needs.
It is a protracted crisis, and what does this mean to us, for those who have been dealing with this situation before? It means it's a time for us to review our approaches and strategies in responding to this crisis, to support durable efforts to resolve the conflict.
The 2021 Humanitarian Response Plan covers areas such as education, health, nutrition, shelter, food security, and early recovery of livelihoods for the IDPs. Panelists, however, believe the inclusion of women and the localization of the plan are key factors to make its implementation successful.
There will be no peace and there will be no durable, lasting solution if we do not involve women. They are half of the population.
We need to adopt the localization agenda that was signed during the ground bargain.
There are currently 1.92 million internally displaced persons in the northeast, particularly in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states, and that figure is expected to go higher in 2021. The unveiling of the humanitarian response plan for the year is expected to bring hope to these persons. The concern is whether that hope will get to them. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
And staying in the northeast, residents of Katarko village are asking the authorities to provide them with enough security personnel to curb the incessant attacks on their community. Suspected Boko Haram insurgents had stormed the community in Gujba local government area of the state in the early hours of today, shooting sporadically and setting ablaze a military base, a primary school and a primary health care center. Katarko community, which lies 18 kilometers from the southern part of Damaturu, the state capital, has been attacked over 10 times since the Boko Haram insurgency began in the northeast.
So far, there are no lives lost, and the damages been assessed, I'm sure, will be put back into operation before the students are back into school. Well, I think security is a collective responsibility. We have our military officers around us, the police, the vigilante, and everybody. And the civil society, too, should really contribute significantly to the security of the community. Intelligence gathering is very key in this sense. And therefore, whatever unusual movements that are seen around the area should be reported, and timely, too, to the security agencies. Of course, Katarko is a target because it's within some few distance to Damaturu, and perhaps sometimes if they target Damaturu and they cannot reach, they'll just begin to harass the immediate environment. And I think the military is aware of this. And what we have noticed today is they've just attacked the village in order to get some drugs and so on and so forth.
Staying with security, the governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, says schools in the state will not be shut following a spate of attacks by bandits. Speaking after the meeting with traditional rulers and religious leaders, security agencies and other concerned groups in Kaduna, the state capital, the governor expressed commitment of the government to work closely with all relevant stakeholders on how best to tackle the security challenges confronting the state.
This state has always faced security challenges, but this time our schools are being targeted. We've had 3 kidnap attempts in the last 3 days. One was partially successful. One was foiled completely, and the other one, I would say, was foiled because none of the students were kidnapped. So we felt we need to bring all the stakeholders together to lay out our strategy, and also to get input from them. Maybe there is something we're missing. And in addition, you know, security is the collective duty of everyone. And for security to be effective, there must be advocacy at the lowest community levels. So we brought community leaders, civil society organizations, and everyone, along with the security agencies, to rub minds and see whether there is something we can do better, or something that we are doing that is wrong, so that we reverse, and generally find better ways, you know, to improve security in the state. And it has been very, very enriching. We've got many insightful suggestions, and I think it's something that we're going to sustain. We've taken many of the suggestions on board. One very clear thing that came out of the interaction is the resolve of all communities that schools should not be closed. The community leaders would work with the security agencies to ensure that our schools are safe and are protected further. Because we put on the table the possibility of closing schools because of the insecurity, and they are very clear that schools should not be closed, and everyone will contribute to ensure that our schools continue, because our students have already lost a lot from the COVID-19 pandemic.
It's good news for students of Ogun State University, as two of their colleagues who were abducted on Sunday evening have now regained their freedom. The release of Precious Adeyemo and Abiola Oyefule comes just a few hours after the National Association of Nigerian Students issued an ultimatum for their release. Our correspondent was at the university's Ayetoro campus, housing the College of Agricultural Sciences earlier today, and we have the mood of the students and residents before the release.
Ayetoro Town in Yewa North Local Government of Ogun State is a peaceful and agrarian settlement where residents go about their daily activities. This relative peace was momentarily disrupted by the abduction of two female students of the Ayetoro campus of the Olabisi Onabanjo University at this particular hostel on number 198 Olowu Street. According to reports, the abductors stormed the hostel on Sunday evening, abducted their victims and escaped through this bush, while the incident was reported around 7:30 the following morning at the police station.
We got a call on yesterday morning that two of our students are abducted by unknown gunmen yesterday. So on getting here yesterday, we saw their handouts and their slippers. Then we went to the police station to file a report about what happened.
I was shocked and I was afraid. Yesterday night, I was like, I can't even move out. Yesterday night, around 8 o'clock, 7, I can't even go out. We are just indoor.
On learning about the kidnap, the students issued a 4-day ultimatum to the government to ensure the release of their colleagues.
We call on the state government as a responsible and responsive government to speedily see to the quick, safe and sound rescue of Adeyemo Precious and Oyefule Abiola from the hands of these monsters. We will give the government the benefit of doubt for 4 days, after which we will no longer watch as students become relegated to mere pawns. Failure of the government to emancipate these students within 4 days will lead to the total shutdown of tertiary academic activities in the state.
However, police authorities say the matter is being attended to, with the spokesman of the Ogun State Command assuring students that everything will be done to rescue them unhurt.
We are parents too, and it will not be a thing of joy for us that a student is kidnapped under our watch and nothing is being done.
Since the abduction of the two female students on Sunday evening, their whereabouts remain unknown, a situation other students say worries them even as they wait patiently to have them back on campus.
Of course, the news is that the girls have been rescued. Now we move away from security. From June the 1st this year, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission will be demanding the asset declaration forms of all bankers in the country. Addressing State House correspondents today after a meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari, the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdul Rashid Bawa, explains that the commission is concerned about the roles played by bankers in the fight against corruption, because criminals will always want to have access to the proceeds of their crime.
That the tail end of every financial crime is for the criminal to have access to the funds that he or she have illegitimately gotten. And we are worried about the roles of financial institutions. And we have discussed, God willing, we hope that all financial institutions, particularly the bankers, will declare their assets as provided for by the law in accordance with the Bank Employees Declaration of Asset Act. And that the EFCC, come the 1st of June 2021, will be demanding for this declaration of asset forms filled by the bankers, and for us to see that, of course, the line that we have drawn come the 1st of June is fully complied with by all bankers in particular. The issue of cybercrime is a huge problem for this country, In the last 1 month alone, we have arrested like 300 cyber criminals across the Federation. Just this week, I don't know, you have reported it in the media, that Ibadan Zonal Office arrested about 57. It is something that I'm particularly worried about. As a young man, I'm appealing to all young Nigerians to desist from this cyber crime activities. It is bringing bad image to our country. It is giving bad name to our country. It is also, chasing away a lot of foreign investment that we need in this. And I call on all parents, guardians, and of course, elders within the society, within the community, to be able to be talking to these, our younger ones, to desist from these, crimes.
In part two, after the break, Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, promises to help ease trade restrictions on Nigeria. That's in a moment. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. $1 billion, that's what the United Nations says is required to provide humanitarian services for the 8 million persons displaced by the country's northeast region for the year 2021. Abducted students of Ogun State University regain their freedom hours after student bodies give 4-day ultimatum for their release. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission gives operators in the country's financial sector up to June the 1st to declare their assets. And countries around Europe seek further clarification on the safety of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine amid criticism over their decision to suspend giving the jab. As the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic continues, the Director General of the World Trade Organization is giving Nigerians the assurance that the trade body will work to reduce export restrictions on medical supplies among member states. Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who believes that an economy cannot advance in a pandemic when the health sector is overstretched, also wants the country to take advantage of global trade opportunities. She made the remark during her visit to the central bank governor, members of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, and a meeting with the business community in Abuja.
The Director General of the World Trade Organization continues her first official visit to Nigeria with a visit to the Central Bank of Nigeria. She's received by the top management of the Apex Bank, led by the CBN governor, who's seeking assistance for the growth of local industries in the country.
We need to give a chance to our own local industries to grow. We need to give a chance for our local industries to create jobs and employment. And in doing so, we would need the support of institutions like yourself to work with us. Nigeria is open to business to any part of the world, and we would like to work with you.
The World Trade Organization Director General gives the assurance that the trade remedies operated by the body can help facilitate the growth of local industries.
WTO has what we call trade remedies, which can help us without banning things. We can be able to protect our industries against dumping and cheap exports and cheap imports and so on. And I want to strongly support that. So we can use those remedies as a tool to help our industries to grow.
Next stop is the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. She's received by the SGF, Mr. Boss Mustafa, accompanied by some members of the Federal Executive Council, and the conversation here centers on the COVID-19 pandemic.
And you remember at the beginning of the pandemic, there are many countries, blocked export. So we've managed to reduce this. There were 91 countries at the beginning who had restrictions and prohibitions on export of medical supplies and equipment. We are now down to 59. So we've reduced considerably, but it's still too many in my view. And so that's one of the things we are trying to get right.
The good thing about COVID-19 is that it has exposed the weaknesses of all systems. Even the most established democracies and economies have been brought to their knees by the adverse effects of COVID-19. But I think the developing economies stand to benefit if they learn from the lessons of this adverse impacts and look at their systems, their governance system, their economic foundations, and the need to heighten inclusion in the way we develop our agendas and our programs.
Thereafter, she meets with the organized private sector and pledges the readiness of the global trade body to assist micro, medium and small enterprises with capacity building.
There are many avenues for the WTO to assist the government and to work with you, the private sector, to add value to your businesses and therefore to trade more.
By this quarter, most likely already early next quarter, Nigeria will be the largest exporter of urea in Africa.
She had earlier visited the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who stated that he was excited about the international trade prospects for the Nigerian people.
Let's cross over to Abuja now, and here's Gloria Umezuke. Gloria?
Hello, Ijoma. Welcome to Abuja. The Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, Captain Musa Nuhu, has announced the suspension of the operations of Azman Airlines owing to safety issues. Captain Nuhu, who disclosed this to members of the Senate Committee on Aviation, explains that the suspension is to allow the NCAA conduct an audit of the airline to determine the root causes of the incident. This comes as the Aviation Committee in the Senate today waded into the controversy on the Ogun State Cargo Airport. Our correspondent, Linda Akibi, reports.
The Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority is before the Senate Committee on Aviation. He's here to discuss issues regarding air safety as well as the controversy surrounding the construction of a cargo airport in Ogun State. He announces the suspension of operations of Azman Airline with immediate effect over repeated air incidents.
This airline had 3 incidents within a period of 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks, starting 11 February. The last was yesterday. And they are all related to a particular part of the aircraft, the tires, the wheels. Yes. What happened in Lagos? There was no report, there was no maintenance work, and the aircraft took off with passengers to Lagos. Guidelines were not being followed. There was issue with their maintenance procedures.
Discussions turned to the dispute over the construction of the cargo airport in Ogun State. In 2007, the administration of Governor Benga Daniel commenced the agro-cargo airport project in Ikperu Remo in Ogun State, but could not complete the project. His successor, Ibikunle Amosu, initiated an international airport located in Wasimi, Iwekoro local government area in Ogun State. The contention appears to be which airport has the approval of the federal government.
Which one, from your records of your agency, was given approval?
Given the records of an approval issued in 2008 by the then, on behalf of the Honourable Minister, for the establishment of an airport, cargo airport, Ogun State Cargo Airport at Shagamu. That's what I have on my records and the Nigerian Civil.
Is there any record in your agency giving your agency approval for Wasima Airport, Cargo Airport?
I asked and I was told there is nothing on that in NCA.
A member of the committee, who was a former secretary to the Ogun State government, said he is aware of the Wasimi project and necessary approvals were sought for it.
A money like that cannot just be expended without having any getting clear authority or clear approvals. I mean, even all the engineering coordinates and everything, you can't do that without even interacting with NCA or any of those or FAN or any of those people.
The committee chairman, Senator Smart Adeyemi, says it is important for Ogun State to resolve this matter and come to a logical conclusion, and that the committee will communicate its findings to the state government. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
As the controversy around the minimum wage continues, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, is insisting that the bill was proposed in good faith and would go through the normal process and possibly die a natural death if the demerits outweigh the merits. Honorable Gbajabiamila, however, gave the assurance that the House would do what is necessary in the interest of Nigerians. He was speaking during an interaction with Nigeria Labour Congress in Abuja. Our correspondent, Terry Ikumi, reports.
President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Ayuba Waba, leads the Labour team to a meeting at the instance of the Speaker of the House of Representatives. The meeting is coming 6 days after the Labour Union led a protest to the National Assembly, demanding that the bill seeking to move the minimum wage from the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent list be thrown out.
That implemented a Lagos.
The NLC president maintains that the minimum wage should remain a national law, as agreed by the International Labour Organization, to which Nigeria is a member.
If we remove it from the exclusive list, one, this issue is about the commitment of Nigeria as a sovereign, having ratified a convention, because the law also provides that it's member countries that will be responsible, not subnationals. And therefore, that is why even in the case of America, it's preserved under a federal law. So what we are saying is that the minimum wage law, which I've clearly tried to define, can only be legislated because in a convention that Nigeria adopted, can only be legislated by the National Assembly.
For the Speaker of the House, the bill was proposed in good faith.
To the proponents of this particular bill, I believe they were coming from the prism from the point of view that we've always had problems in paying salaries. Help us tell your people we're for them. We will always be for them. If this is going to hurt the Nigerian people, I can assure you, if it's going to hurt the Nigerian people, you won't find any members supporting it. You won't.
Sponsor of the bill, Garibadati, responds to allegations of external influence in his decision.
I was never influenced by anybody. I've always been an independent-minded from the onset. I may be wrong. This is exactly what we are saying. When you wrote to me, I replied. I said, come for public hearing because we have parliamentary procedures. If you come with convincing reasons, I have nothing personal. I can't cling to everything I said it must be done. No.
The Labour unions will have to wait until the public hearing on the bill to argue their case, even as they insist that the minimum wage should remain a national issue. But consequential adjustments can be negotiated at state level. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
When the News at 10 returns, President Muhammadu Buhari commissions road projects in Imo State as part of activities marking the 1 year in office of Governor Hope Uzodinma. Plus, Central Bank of Nigeria and Nigerian Communications Commission introduce new charges for dollar transactions in the country. That's in business news. Please join us again.
Welcome back to the News at 10. 2 members of staff of the Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board, Andy Okoro and Gambo Abba, have been arrested for extorting money from the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination candidates with the promise to help them secure university admission. Mr. Okoro, a level 12 officer in the Delta State JAM office, was said to have collected 500,000 naira from 4 parents, out of which he paid 180,000 naira to a colleague, Gambo, to help facilitate their admission. The registrar of JAM, Professor Ishak Oluyede, said the bubble burst when one of the parents in Delta State petitioned JAM on Okoro's activities, a move that prompted the board to launch an investigation. Professor Oluyede was surprised that the member of staff defied the board's zero tolerance for corruption as he vowed to ensure that they face the full wrath of the law. The Lagos State Judicial Panel on Restitution for Victims of SARS and other related matters has summoned 3 management staff of Techno Oil. Those summoned are the Group Managing Director, Mrs. Nkechi Obi, Mr. Anthony Unyama, and Mr. Godfrey Okibo. The chairman of the panel, Justice Doris Okuobi, gave approval for the subpoena summoning the three based on the request of a petitioner, Prince Ayeni Adebayo, who testified before the panel today.
Did you issue this check in question? I didn't issue it. It was a false, bogus, and fucked up allegation against me. And that was the reason why I look counter petition there. And that was the reason why SFU will do the charges against me.
Is that the petitioner's case?
Yes, the only prayer request we have before this lordship is we pray the indulgence of this honorable panel to subpoena the three officers mentioned in the course of the testimony of Techno Oil Nigeria Limited to help us put more light to this case. And the three of them namely are Mrs. Nkechi Obi, as spelled. Two, Mr. Anthony Onyama. Onyama is O-N-Y-E-A-M-A.
Yeah.
And the third person is Mr. Godfrey Okibo.
They are your witnesses.
Yes, sir.
Residents and motorists that ply the Asomta-Ibarewa Road and the Federal Secretariat World Bank in Imo State may now heave a sigh of relief following the reconstruction of the two roads by the Hope Uzodinma administration. The roads were said to be in deplorable state in the past, but now reconstructed with the governor's first year in office. President Muhammadu Buhari, who witnessed the commissioning of the projects virtually, praised the governor on infrastructure development.
Asomta-Ibarewa Road and Federal Secretariat World Bank Road are the two roads ready to be commissioned by President Muhammadu Buhari. According to the state government, these roads, which are impassable in the past, are now reconstructed and rehabilitated by the Uzodinma-led administration within its first year in office.
When we took over, this road was in absolute dilapidation.
The president, who is witnessing the commissioning of the project virtually, is alongside the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, and the Deputy President of the Senate, Ovie Omoagege. The Commissioner for Works, Ralph Umwosu, and the contractor give their brief remarks.
Incidentally, this road, when we started, was being done by a foreign contractor, but he did not perform up to standard. We had to look for very efficient and good contractors to embark on the project and give the entire line. Mr. President, I have to say that those contractors performed, and today the result is what you are here today.
For the governor, the drive to construct the road is born out of his quest to address the infrastructural deficit in the state.
These roads and many others that we have constructed in just 1 year will greatly ease the movement of goods and services between our state and other states.
In his address, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, commends the governor for his achievements in 1 year while urging him to do more.
I am informed that within the first year in office, the state government has done quite a lot, particularly in road infrastructure.
Then the commissioning of the road.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, Amen, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
According to the governor, the road will now be referred to as Muhammadu Buhari Road, and these two roads being commissioned are amongst the 46 roads embarked upon by the Uzodinma-led administration within 1 year in office. Eyi Topekuteyi, Channels Television News.
Well, we're going to move on to some business news now, and here's Anne Wilder.
So easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Ijoma. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Central Bank and the Nigerian Communications Commission have announced a flat service charge of 6 naira 98 kobo for unstructured supplementary service data services transactions, otherwise known as USSD. According to a joint statement released today by the regulatory bodies, the new service charge takes effect from today, March the 16th, for every financial transactions conducted at deposit money banks and all CBN licensed institutions. The reduction in the service charge comes after a resolution meeting with banks and telecom operators in a bid to work out a settlement plan for outstanding payments incurred by USSD services previously rendered by mobile network operators. The statement also mentions that the new framework replaces the current per-session billing structure and ensures a transparent and much cheaper average cost for customers to enhance financial inclusion. In spite of the COVID-19 pandemic, which crippled, among other things, economic activities in the year 2020, one of Nigeria's Tier 1 lenders, Zenith Bank, has recorded a 5% increase in its gross earnings, placing its result for the year ended December the 31st, 2020 at 696.5 billion naira, coming from 662.3 billion, which was reported the previous year. According to the bank's chairman, Mr. Jim Ovia, who spoke at the 30th annual general meeting of the bank, the result was achieved through the resilience of the brand, as well as the ability of the bank to leverage the continuous opportunities within the environment.
It's the 30th annual general meeting of Zenith Bank holding in Victoria Island, Lagos, with high regard to COVID-19 protocols, which sees some members of the board joining virtually. The chairman, Mr. Jim Ovia, opens the meeting and presents his statement. In his words, Zenith Bank is committed to building a more sustainable and inclusive economy. As such, we have continued to integrate sustainability principles in our business operations and investment decisions in line with global best practices. The high point of the meeting was, however, the financial report, which highlights the impressive performance of the bank in the year which has now been tagged a pandemic year. Highlights of the financial report include gross earnings increased by 5% to 696.5 billion naira from 662.3 billion naira in 2019. Profit before tax increased by 5%, growing from 243.3 billion naira in 2019 to 255.9 billion naira in 2020. And a 2 naira 70 kobo final dividend after paying 30 kobo interim dividend in December 2020.
We shareholders are really happy with the performance of the bank. An earning per share of over 7 naira and a dividend of 3 naira despite COVID-19. This is very, very encouraging.
You have owner-manager in place who, of course, his focus is to ensure that whatever investors have put in there will continue to grow.
With the accolades from the shareholders, the Group Managing Director, Mr. Ebenezer Onyanwu, is confident that activities in equities markets, especially around the bank's shares, will drive the stock exchange into the green zone.
At the outbreak of the pandemic, Zenith share price was as low as 11 naira. But even with the dividend payout and the markdown of our dividend payment, our share price is 21 naira currently.
The management promises that if the bank could excel in the pandemic, then 2021 will deliver better benefits to its customers and shareholders.
Nigeria's stock market made a U-turn to the green territory at the close of trading today amid gains from 11 equities. Ekaite Afia has the news. Thanks for joining us for the Stock Market Report. In a surprise move, the local equities market made a quick rebound from the downtrend which it started the week with after investors renewed their interest for some high-value equities. Now, one would have thought that losses from 20 equities, which includes 4 out of the 5 big banks, would have extended the negative performance which has dominated the better part of March. But instead, the gains from 2 of the market's heavyweight equities, Dangote Cement and MTN Nigeria, countered their losses as the All-Share Index rose by 0.41% today, and that is about 83 billion naira in value. And I mean, there you see it. I must say today's performance is quite impressive because the rebound comes on the day that the National Bureau released the February inflation report, which points to a higher rate amid concerns over the country's economic environment. So let's take a look at the activity chart. As you can see, volume of shares transactions carried out today is slightly higher compared to Monday's session, while the trio of UBA, Access, and Mutual Benefits are on the top trades list for the day. Now, the market is up today, but let's keep our fingers crossed for the outcome in the midweek session. That's all for the Stock Market Report. I'm Ekaite Afia. Back to you. And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwaudu. It's back to you, Juma.
Thanks a lot, Anne. European countries are seeking further clarification on the safety of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine amid concerns over reports of blood clots found in a few recipients. Meanwhile, many African nations are pressing ahead with the rollout of the vaccine. Here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Vaccine safety experts from the World Health Organization are meeting to review the Oxford AstraZeneca jab after several European countries halted their rollouts. A number of cases of blood clots were reported in Europe after the vaccine was administered. However, the UK medicines regulator and the WHO say there is no evidence of a link between the vaccine and clots. Leading EU states, including Germany, France, Italy and Spain, have suspended the use of the vaccine as a precautionary measure. More than 17 million people have received the vaccine in the United Kingdom and the European Union to date, with fewer than 40 cases of blood clots reported as of last week. It's been revealed that the Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny is being held in a prison camp in Russia's Vladimir region, northeast of Moscow. Navalny's precise location had been unknown after his legal team said last week that he had been moved from the nearby Kolchugino jail and that they had not been told where he was being taken. A message posted on the politician's Instagram account confirmed the new location. Mr. Navalny is due to serve out a 2.5-year sentence in the facility that he's described as a real concentration camp, 100 meters from Moscow. The Duke of Edinburgh has left hospital in central London following a successful heart procedure. Prince Philip was admitted to King Edward VII Hospital in Marylebone on the 16th of February after feeling unwell. The 99-year-old spent 28 days in hospital in total, his longest ever stay. The Duke has returned to Windsor Castle, where he spent most of lockdown residing with the Queen for their safety. The former US First Lady, Michelle Obama, has said it wasn't a complete surprise to hear the Duchess of Sussex talk about race in a recent TV interview.
And I pray for forgiveness and healing for them so that they can use this as a teachable moment for
Mrs.
us.
Obama was speaking following Meghan and Harry's interview with Oprah Winfrey, where the couple opened up about a range of personal topics, including racism and mental health. The former President Barack Obama and his wife are said to have a close relationship with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. She also said she hoped Meghan's experiences would be a lesson for the world. Sudan's Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok has requested an expanded mediation team on the dispute over the mega dam that Ethiopia is building on the Nile River. Mr. Hamdok has written to the United Nations, African Union, European Union and the United States, expressing concern over Ethiopia's declared intention to fill the dam for the second time in June, without a binding agreement between the 3 concerned countries. Sudan, Ethiopia and Egypt have been locked for almost 10 years in inconclusive talks over the filling and operation of the hydropower dam, which broke ground in 2011. Somalia has begun administering COVID-19 vaccines in hospitals across the country. Somalia received its first shipment of 300,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. The Health Ministry, Fawzia Abikar Noor, announced that the country has started the vaccination program at Demartino Hospital in the capital, Mogadishu. France will return a masterpiece by painter Gustav Klimt to the heirs of its owner more than 80 years after she was forced to sell it during the Nazi era. French Culture Minister Roselyne Bachelot has said that the original owner, Nora Stiazny, from a well-known Jewish family in Austria, had to sell the painting at a knockdown price to survive financially after the Nazis annexed Austria in 1938. The painting, called Rose Bushes Under the Trees, has been hanging in the Musée d'Orsay in Paris since 1980. And finally, shoppers at a wholesale market in Mexico City have been treated to a surprise visit from a group of professional wrestlers. Known as the Lucha Libre Fighters, they were hired as part of a stunt to encourage everyone to wear masks and use disinfectant. Mexico has one of the highest death rates from the pandemic in the world, but it's hoped this unorthodox initiative may help bring down infections. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Confederation of African Football President Patrice Motsepe has raised the bar for national teams on the African continent by insisting one of them must win the FIFA World Cup soon. No African team has gone beyond the quarter-final stage of the World Cup, but the South African billionaire is confident as he spoke in South Africa for the first time since his ascension to the highest position in African football. Sweden coach Janne Andersson has confirmed that Zlatan Ibrahimovic has come out of his 5-year international retirement to boost Sweden's Euro 2020 hopes. Andersson has named the country's record goal scorer in his latest squad for their World Cup qualifiers against Georgia and Kosovo. The Milan forward scored 62 goals and 116 internationals for Sweden before retiring after their group stage exit at Euro 2016. In the UEFA Champions League, Man City have progressed to the quarter-finals with an emphatic victory over German side Borussia Mönchengladbach at the Puskás Arena in Budapest, Hungary. Real Madrid also advanced to the last 8 after a hard-earned win over Italian side Atalanta FC at the Alfredo Di Stefano Stadium in Madrid. Rafa Nadal has withdrawn from next week's start of the ATP Miami Open. Nadal, who shares the all-time record of 20 men's Grand Slam singles titles with Roger Federer, has not played since being ousted from last month's Australian Open quarterfinals by Greece's Stefanos Tsitsipas. And that sports news is back to you, Joma.
Thanks, Ayotunde. And the main news again. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs today announced that the sum of $1 billion is required to provide humanitarian services for over 8 million persons displaced in the country's northeast region for the year 2021. And also today, respite came for the 2 abducted students of Olabisi Onabanjo University who regained their freedom just hours after the student bodies gave a 4-day ultimatum for their release. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks a lot for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Good night.